us is Lorna Griess for Author's Corner. Her book has such a tremendous impact. It's called MASH Vietnam, What It's Like to Be a War Nurse. And I'll tell you what, it is such an incredible memoir. I mean, she takes you right into that crazy, chaotic, harrowing world, really, of a mobile army surgical hospital and what it was like to go through that. She's very honest in her account of, again, what it's like to be on the front lines of a pretty tumultuous period in our history, that's for sure. So we welcome her to Author's Corner here on America Tonight with me, Kate Delaney. Lorna, thanks for coming on.
Oh, thank you for having me.
So tell me what made you write the book?
I wrote the book because I had been giving presentations, PowerPoint presentations. I take a lot of pictures at luncheons and dinners for whoever invited me. And I kept hearing that they'd say, thank you for telling me that. I didn't know that. So I decided I would just put it all into a book.
Yeah, and for you, you don't hold anything back in your book. You talk about your own personal cost of war. You talk about your own struggles with PTSD because you saw, I mean, some really tough, horrible situations that were really gut-wrenching, heart-wrenching, right?
Yes, yes. But you live 24/7 on adrenaline. So that's very hard to even rest when you stay on adrenaline for so long.
What was it that made you want to
Um,
serve in the first place?
I was bored working in suburbia, and I just wanted something different. I wanted to travel, but I didn't have any money. Makes money to travel. So I got a brochure from the Navy Nurse Corps, and I looked and I said, that looks like it'd be a lot of fun. So I joined the Navy first, and then I didn't like that one so much because it didn't give me anything. There weren't many foreign assignments. So I got out of the Navy. Vietnam was starting up, so I switched to Army and rejoined. And I've never been sorry. Navy was fine, but it didn't give any women anything to do at the time.
So you get to
Um,
Vietnam, and what is it that people don't know, do you think, that you want to share with all of us about Vietnam?
in relation to how it makes a person feel, or
Yeah.
yeah, well, you see a lot of injured people, all different types of injuries. And the men that are injured do not have bad attitudes. Their goal is to go back to their unit, and of course, a lot of them cannot. A mobile army surgical hospital was designed to be close to the battle and to pick up patients with needing life and limb saving surgeries. But of course, the helicopters really can't triage patients when they land for 5 seconds. They just land, load, and take off. So we got any kind of patient they had out there, and that was fine. We do not refuse anybody. So our hospital would hold less than 100 patients. In fact, we never had more than 50 to 60. And we would run them through surgery, out into recovery, and into the wards. And if they could go back to duty within 2 weeks, we sent them back to duty. If not, they were evac home
Wow. And
or to a larger hospital.
yeah,
Yes.
and we talk so much about the war, but in terms of medical folks there, I mean, there's a lot of sacrifices on that side of it, I think that people don't realize, right?
Well, we could all be working back home for making more money.
Yeah.
That was evident with the doctors, yeah. But there's an experience factor in a war that's very important for doctors and nurses. You learn to do things very quickly, you learn to assess quickly, plan their treatment, and help them. You don't get that in civilian life except in big emergency rooms.
And for
So
you, yeah, for you, so that experience is huge. For those doctors, for you, when you first arrived in Vietnam and then you get thrown into, as you say, the adrenaline starts going, was it what you expected you would encounter?
well, I didn't have a lot of expectations because I didn't know. When you watch a war movie and it doesn't really give you a lot of detail. So when we put the long flight going, of course, and you end up at Saigon, stay in a hotel overnight, and then go north. Well, the first experience is a hotel with no running, with water you could not drink out of the faucets, and a whole bunch of bugs. So I said, boy, I think this is going to be pretty common wherever I go. So if we flew out the next day, and my duffel bag, with my clothing in it, was yucked out of the airplane into a puddle of water, and it never did dry for the whole time I was there. So
Wow.
it's humidity, um, lack of running water in the hospital. We had electricity that ran the equipment, but no running water. Um, had to run to the mess hall for ice for wounds when we first got there. So very primitive atmosphere that you really takes a while to get used to. You're used to a hospital with all of the nice things in it. We didn't have that. We had primitive stuff.
And
That's what mobile hospitals have. You can't depend on any supply lines. You can't depend on electricity. It was like everyday living. Some things were funny, some things were very sad, and some things were hard, some were easy. But you always learned, and you always grew. So that's what's important. Um, yeah, we had fun with the patients, especially the well ones.
oh, I
Um,
bet.
we kept this. Yeah, as I
Wow.
said, the morale of the patients was wonderful. They missed their unit and they wanted to go back.
Yeah.
Some could not, unfortunately. Yeah, but if a patient, a MASH unit was designed to be close to the front because they learned that the sooner a patient got to a hospital, the more likely they were to survive.
Yeah. And so
So
thank
that
goodness for
pattern's
that.
repeated. Yeah, that pattern's repeated in Iraq and everywhere. In fact, today's military is much more efficient than we were.
For you, what was it like when you finally left Vietnam?
When you camp out with about 300 of your soon-to-be closest friends, it's the hard part is going home. The hard part is going home. Number one, you leave all of your new friends, and you get in this airplane. This, we had to go to down south to get a flight home, Cameron Bay, and we sat watching the airplanes come and go the night before, and the Viet Cong started shelling the runway when an airplane was taking off with people going home. That pilot stepped on the accelerator and he went almost straight up. I didn't know planes could do that. But that made us nervous for going home the next day. So we left our perch, went down, and got ready to go home the next day. But the flight home was quiet. Not anybody said anything all the way across the Pacific. As soon as the wheels touched down at Travis Air Force Base, people jumped up in the air. Hats flew. The stewardess just got out of the way. The captain over the intercom said, "Welcome home."
Wow, what a description. What do you hope people take away from reading your book?
The takeaway, I hope, is that I can now understand why my son, daughter, husband is a little strange, you know, and just have patience and support them. Because I ran into the same thing. I went home and I didn't have a common point for conversation with anybody when I got home. First of all, I was in a quiet place, except for when we were mortared or something. It was very quiet. And when we walked through that airport, the noise that nobody else notices really bothered me. The constant roar of televisions, the bright lights, all of that really bothered me. And I think it probably does everybody. We weren't used to that. When I got home, wasn't current with any movies, ice cream parlors, restaurants, nothing. I had no point of conversation.
Wow.
Isn't that interesting?
Yes. So interesting. And so important for so many reasons that you just talked about. You can get this book on Amazon, of course. Lorna Griess's book, MASH Vietnam. What's it like to be a war nurse? She takes you right in the thick of it. It is so, so good. You can devour it in any form you like, from Kindle to paperback, and so on and so forth. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Oh, thank you.